Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Foley is Pod, and we're back with another exciting episode with your Hall of Famer, Mr. Mick Foley. Mick, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, Conrad. Excited to be back in the chair, bringing some more exciting and hopefully entertaining reminiscences. Did I say that right?
I'll count it.
I'm going to reminiscences. But whatever it is that I'm going to be doing. Yeah.
You said it with authority the first time.
That's what we're going to be doing.
Yeah,
I shouldn't have questioned my own ability to say that word.
I like reminiscences. So let's jump into it. A few weeks ago, we talked about King of the Ring 1997 and how your career is almost starting to transition, or at least your character is, because of those sit-downs that you did with Jim Ross. So now the summer of love is upon us, Mick. And you pretty much stated you never thought this would be a thing. In your book, you wrote, "Dude Love was my fantasy creation of what a man was supposed to be. I never envisioned a freak like Mankind or a weirdo like Cactus Jack to be in the cards for me. No way. As the dude, I was going to be all the things that Mick Foley never was. Rich, successful, and the recipient of more ass than a toilet seat."
Whoa. That's an effective use of simile there.
How about that?
By the New York Times #1 best-selling author.
Hashtag humble brag.
Although it's very much an overused, I'm ashamed that I couldn't have thought of something.
Well, it works because you use the language so sparingly.
Okay.
It works for you. But this fantasy sort of come to life. Were you still interested in portraying that character at this point in your career, or did you kind of think about the character as, well, this is kind of juvenile, but that can be fun in wrestling too? Or
I thought the dude's moment had passed. You know, in 80, I think 83 through 85, or 83 and 84 is when we did those 2 home movies, and I created this laid back hip cat. But there's this moment in the Jim Ross interviews where I talk about what I wanted to do. I wanted to be the guy who got the girls, the one who was loved. And then I said, "It never really worked out that way, did it, Jimmy?" And he said, "No, it didn't." So I originally just became Cactus Jack because I wanted the most generic, boring, homogenized name you could find.
Right.
Until I became good enough to become Dude Love. But then it became clear to me that Mother Nature did not intend for me to be that way. Only one person more powerful than Mother Nature, and that's Mr. McMahon. And Mr. McMahon decided that it was in the cards for me to be that way. And I think by portraying Mankind, especially as a tortured soul, that it made the revelation of Dude Love that much more meaningful.
How big of a challenge is this for you to try to tackle yet another character? Longtime fans knew you as Cactus Jack. We've gotten really familiar and comfortable with the Mankind persona, and now we're going to bring out even a third persona.
Yeah.
It's almost like, not exactly that you were, but it's like a personality disorder type situation, right? It's almost like a movie. Like this same guy has 3 separate, but that has to be a challenge for you because you don't want to do a watered down version of one of the others, right?
Yeah. Well, we talk sometimes, or quite a bit in wrestling, about becoming the character.
Yes.
And that has its positives and negatives, especially when you don't know when to turn off that switch. But becoming Mankind meant really trying to embrace that darkness and getting into character for hours before the show, because it didn't feel like me. I had to make it feel like me. I had to find that part of myself. So I'm talking real deep and philosophical here. Dude Love was acting.
Yes.
So Dude Love was fun. There wasn't a need for me I never had to metamorphosize or feel like I was that guy, because I was in some ways paying tribute to some of the guys who came before me. Jimmy Boogie Woogie Man Valiant,
of course,
stands out. It's funny, Conrad, that when I first started trying to do Dude Love for Cameo, I sounded more like Dusty. Especially there's a video where I was thanking people. This is before Cameo, for the I Am Santa Claus donations. So a certain echelon got the video and the print signed by Jericho and CM Punk. Oddly enough, that's almost like the movie that Punk and Jericho funded, because we were not doing well on the fundraiser until we offered that one. So without those two guys signing that great 11-inch by 14-inch print, where I am officially defeating Jericho, it's official. There's a referee and everything. I just lost my train of thought.
Well, we were
Steer
talking
me back on the tracks, Conrad.
Sure. So we were talking about how you're trying to get into the character, but it's really acting.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about doing that movie.
Oh yeah. That when I was doing the videos, I think I even say in one of them, we'll try to find one for future reference. That I say out loud. I think I sound more like Dusty than I do Dude. And it took me a while to get back into it. But as we've seen on a weekly basis, like I love being the Dude, but it wasn't quite like hopping on a bike and being that guy. I didn't have to find the character. I just had to get some reps in, and then it came back.
Who do you work it out through? I mean, is this something, I'm not saying this to be funny, but do you like practice mannerisms or verbiage on your wife, or do you doing it with Russo in the back, or is Vince bringing you lines, or what does it look like in that era?
Well, there's a great video where you can see how Russo's fingerprints, and also Vince's to some extent. There's he goes, Mick, I need you to strut, and I said, I was strutting. Like that was my version of a strut. But between Russo and Corny off camera was real helpful, especially in getting me to embrace my inner boogie woogie man, Jimmy Valiant. That was really helpful because the laid back hip cat that Dude was in the Loved One movie from 84, 85, I don't think that would have translated onto live microphones. It had to be a little bit more over the top and outlandish.
As far as the actual look, I think we've seen drawings where WWE has their creative services department sketch up what they thought Dude Love would look like. Did you give them any insight on that, or was that all their creation and you went with it?
Well, let me say, Dude Love was basically me with the same terrible haircut and a cut-off T-shirt, right?
Well, tie-dye.
Oh, yeah. Well, I knew it was going to be tie-dye.
Okay.
In the home movies, it was the it was the paisley pajama top. I don't know why I thought pajama top spelled cool and irresistible, but it was the pajama top, which I would then go on to wear.
Maybe Hugh Hefner.
Hugh, yeah, and Dude had the Kleenex boxes for slippers, right? Because that was a Hugh Hefnerism. I later went on to use that same pajama top as like a ring vest in my first WCW run. But it was a lot of fun. I don't remember seeing anything from Creative Services. I think it was just, here's the shirt. I think they sent me a prototype of the shirt. I said, I love it. It came out. I think I actually wore the original one. First one off the press I wore and then gave to a young man named Chris Giordano. This isn't funny. But there is some humor in it, I think, or else I wouldn't be laughing uncomfortably. Chris is a young man with cerebral palsy. And originally, we were going to try to get the shirt back from him. And I checked with Chris and his dad, and they were all for it. But WWE was concerned, or A&E was concerned, that it might look like we were putting undue pressure on a young man with cerebral palsy to get back a gift I had given him a long time ago. He would have been very well compensated, but
sure.
That's just
the optics weren't less
it's
than
such
ideal.
a centerpiece of his house, Like,
oh, really?
They have a great wrestling room. The man cave is a wrestling room, and there's so many cool things in there. You guys might want to look up Chris Giordano and try to buy some of the stuff from him. He's got some really cool stuff down there.
So you wind up with blue tights and white boots and the funky sunglasses, and we're off to the races. So we talked about the strut, but the little catchphrases and stuff that he would do, is that something you just came up with on your own?
Oh, have mercy. I mean, that's been used a handful of times, right?
Sure.
I'm thinking Iceman Parsons used it, but there have been others too.
Yeah.
Oh, have mercy. I believe So I was either paying tribute to or just blatantly ripping off people, depending on how you want to look at it.
Sure.
And then trying to find my own way in. What really made that first Dude Love debut pop, though, was the audience that the JR interviews had garnished. So that it was unusual that when I came on, people did not really know what I looked like. Even when I came on with that, if you look back at that Dude Love interview from Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, it's like, who the heck is this? And then I was like, Steve-O, ow, don't you recognize me? I don't blame you for not wanting to team up with that mangled freak Mankind, but you never said nothing about teaming up with the hippest cat in the land. Steve-O, it's me, Dude Love. And that's when the audience got that, because it was... I know it sounds funny because a lot of people who listen to the show, they're well aware of that, who Cactus Jack was. I had a pretty good track record. But I would say 25% of the audience knew who Cactus Jack was. That's what I estimated to be the crossover. I'm basing that on the fact that my wife and kids were able to watch the pay-per-view in Chattanooga in December of '97 that I wasn't on. I was able to sit in the crowd with a baseball hat on and largely go... now, granted, I'm in the friends and family section, so you're not going to get as much attention there. But I would say that the vast majority of WWE fans did not know what I looked like. The internet wasn't in force. If you hadn't seen me on WCW or World Class Championship Wrestling, you didn't know what Mankind looked like, and you didn't have a way to find out. I guess if you really did some digging, you could. So there was this amazing feeling of accomplishment, when the accomplishment being just how effective those interviews with Jim Ross had been, because as soon as I said Dude Love, brother, they had to stop working Freeman Coliseum. It has no roof anymore. Roof came off the place.
All right, Mick, it's time. All of our listeners have been wondering when I was going to get you smartened up about this. Are you familiar with Blue Chew?
I've heard of it.
Well, now you're going to learn all about it. This is like a hot tag for your wiener, Mick.
Okay. Are they going to use that in their...
Yeah. Here's the deal, boys and girls. You know all about Blue Chew. Even Mick does. And Mick is a podcast rookie here, right? But You know this episode's sponsored by Blue Chew. You knew that as soon as you clicked play and you saw my name. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but it's chewable tablets. And Mick, you'll love this, at a fraction of the cost.
Fraction of the cost, really?
Now, I like that. Now, here's the real reason on that, Mick. They are basically offering like almost the generic version. So it's the same stuff if you use Viagra and Cialis, but now it's in chewable form, which means you can take it on an empty stomach. You can take it day or night. You can be ready whenever an opportunity arises, or maybe it's time for that elusive run-in. Oh, right?
Yeah,
just
that's
boom.
right. The
Good
hot
to go.
tag, come in, the house of fire.
Yeah, working from underneath, going over. I mean, we can get it all in here. The process is simple, guys. You sign up at BlueChew.com. You consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And here's the best part, Mick. It's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. And I know this is important to you, Mick. Blue Chew's tablets are made right here in the USA. The good old red, white, and Blue Chew. It's prepared and shipped directly to your door, all in a discreet package. But Mr. Foley, there won't be anything discreet about your package with Blue Chew. So, boys and girls, check this out. If you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, Blue Chew can help. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew for free. Can you beat that price,
You
Mick?
can't beat it, but you got to have the disclaimer about side effects, right? Side effects include smacking the mat,
Yes.
firing up into a fighting position and saying, come on, and rushing your hair. Come on, you son of a... Come on.
And if you're not careful, an accidental eye poke. I mean, you never know. You just never know. Come on, boys and girls. Try this out for free. You can't beat free. All you got to do is use our promo code FOLEY at checkout. Now, you will have to pay $5 shipping, but why would you not do that? Come on now.
Why would you not do it?
It's BlueChew.com. The promo code is Foley. You receive your first month for free. Just visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. And apparently, Mrs. Foley's baby boy, I don't know, but you're going home with some today, and I'm going to need to report back.
I am a scientist.
Okay.
I can almost assure you that you are going to become my wife's least favorite person.
Really?
By virtue of giving me
You're going to be pestering her all the time?
Possibly.
Hey, here's what's good about you in particular. You had 3 bites at the apple at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if I'm thinking what you're thinking and you're thinking what I'm thinking.
I think I am thinking what I think you think I'm thinking.
We start with Cactus Jack. Maybe we transition to Mankind. We finish with Dude Love, or vice versa. Just switch it up. Just use promo code Foley at BlueChew.com. Well, Dude Love is essentially your baby. You know, I mean, you were handed this Mankind persona and the version of what they wanted you to look like, but now it feels like you've got a little more freedom. Are you excited about that, or did you always sort of know, well, this isn't the destination. This is just a stop along the way?
Well, when Vince called me, I think I may have referenced the early morning phone call. Also, given that I was in the Pensacola area, I was in Central Time.
Right.
So it was about 6:30 because Vince barely sleeps, right? A few hours. So Vince had probably finished his 4:30 a.m. wake-up call and called me first thing. Hey, pal, how you doing? How'd you like to be Dude Love? And I remember saying just one time, he said, from now on. Mm-hmm. So I had some questions about whether going 100% dude was the right thing to do. As it turns out, we didn't do it that way, and I think that's fortunate. Because, especially the Dude Love pop has come out within the last few months, and I'm signing more of this pop than anything I've ever done before.
Really?
Yeah. Partially because it's a good-looking signature, and it's also a great-looking pop. But it's like it's a departure. It doesn't. The Mick Foley pop looks a lot like the Cactus Jack pop. They're all cool. Maybe I'm psychoanalyzing pops a little too deeply.
But this one looks different.
I really like it. And I'm signing a lot of them. And I believe by Vince making that call to allow me to be all 3 guys simultaneously and have that great summer of love, drifting into the fall of love, that he really did me a solid.
It's fascinating to read your book, because you said, I gulped and actually felt my body going weak at the prospect of the Dude gracing a sacred WWF ring. Quote, Mick, the way I see it, Dude Love is going to be huge, he said. Children will love him, fans who already love Mankind will love him, and guys won't be afraid to bring their girlfriends to the matches because the Dude won't threaten them.
Right.
He'll be a safe sex symbol.
He was a safe sex symbol, yeah.
What a great line, safe sex symbol.
I don't mean he was symbol for safe sex, but he was a sex symbol who was safe.
I like it.
You could fantasize about Dude Love. You could play that role as, some WWE employees did, where they would dress up and throw undergarments into the ring. My wife was a dudette one time. She was the original dudette. It was my wife and I think Julie Youngberg, one of the seamstresses, who were the original dudettes. And then they hired some people in Richmond. But it was fun for people to play along.
Do you think, obviously we know that this is all sort of, at the end, Vince is going to make the call on a lot of these creative decisions. And I think sometimes fans get caught up on, this guy is or that guy is. But I think you and I know, it's usually Vince's final call.
That's right, yeah.
Why do you think Vince liked this character so much?
Vince loved the character. There's a part of Vince that genuinely likes to make dreams come true.
Okay.
There really is. So he likes to do that for his audience. I think you could argue that he puts them through an unnecessary rigor sometimes.
Sure.
Like, I'm not a fan of having people lose and get embarrassed in their hometowns.
Yeah.
I guess he thinks, it's good heat. I would rather have seen, Charlotte, for example, go over in Charlotte and Sasha go over in Boston instead of vice versa. It just seems like an easy way to make people happy. But at the end of the day, Vince does believe I've heard him say this, that his company helps make dreams come true. And he loved the idea of making this come true for me. And then he also gets to claim ownership on like giving that character a happy ending, and making it his own vision of Dude Love.
But at this point, being Dude Love was not a dream of yours. It was when you were a kid.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine, considering the run you were having at the time, you couldn't be like thrilled to think, oh, here we go. But I think the symbolism behind, hey, dreams can't come true, that's probably the same thinking that got us like Nikki ASH a couple of years ago, right? That you want something that little kids can say, hey, he can do it, I want to do it too, sort of thing.
And now remember that the setup for Dude Love, I think in the aftermath of the JR interviews, was, I believe, particularly well done in creating a need or a reason for Dude to emerge.
Yes.
You go back to the stuff that Mankind was doing with Austin as far as needing a tag team partner. And I think a lot of stuff gets lost brushed to the wayside. And I may have already made this analogy that the world of professional wrestling or sports entertainment can be like one of those sushi places with the conveyor belts.
Yes.
Where you literally just turn and you're grabbing stuff and you eat and you die, but you're not really enjoying it like you otherwise might under a different circumstance. And every once in a while, it's nice to have something that is really well prepared, that you can sit down and enjoy. And I believe that the Dude Love transformation was one of those things you could really sit back and enjoy, because I was showing up. This was like the kindest hearted version of Mankind.
Yes.
He's coming up. He's got the sign around his neck that says, "Pick me, Steve." He's fighting people off on Austin's behalf, and then taking a stunner like 3 weeks in a row for his troubles. And I believe that in my mind, when we were doing it, it was the constant rejection at the hands of Steve Austin.
Yes.
That led to this switch being flipped, which was me, Mick Foley, believing that I am this guy.
Yeah.
And I think the idea was that, when you suspend disbelief and you watch a show, it's like this guy believes he is Dude Love.
Right. So just to set the stage, what we discussed last was you're doing TV. You had just lost to Hunter at the King of the Ring finals.
Just making another appeal for a friend of mine.
Sure.
Struggling. Dwayne Johnson, this is his energy drink.
What was his name again?
His name's Dwayne Johnson. He's a young man I teamed with.
Okay.
Yeah, and we formed a team, Rock and Sock Connection. He's largely been lost to the history.
He played football back in the day,
He played a little football for Miami.
Okay.
And then he dabbled in pro.
Warren Sapp took his job, and he never really did much after that, right? I think
until this.
He's got a drink now.
He's got a drink now, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So doing what I can.
Warren Sapp won Super Bowls. This guy made beverages, so
yeah.
Thoughts and prayers for him and his family. Hope it works.
He's still got some potential.
Yeah. See what happens next.
Can I tell you, Conrad? I sent a video to Brian Gewirtz for Rock's birthday.
Oh yeah.
And so Rock, he responds with audio messages. So you're not just getting a text, you're getting the Rock's message. And I'm telling you, Conrad, this guy has a way with words. It just brings tears to your eyes. He's like the biggest star in the world.
Yes.
And he's reaching out to me. Granted, I was his partner. People can make their own defense for me. But still, in my mind, he's the biggest star in the world. And here's this legitimately touching stuff he's laying on me. So thank you, Dwayne.
Wow, that's awesome, man. And hey, Brian's got a new book out. How about that?
It's good. It's really good. I was a pre-reader. So I gave him a blurb. I read it in one day. I read it in 2 sittings. One day. What's great about it is I believe it works on a couple different levels. So if you were there for some of it, it's fantastic. But I laughed as hard as at the stuff that I wasn't there for as the stuff I did. I lost count of how many times I laughed out loud because Brian Gewirtz had a sense of humor similar to mine. I think the reason that I always felt my book and Jericho's were similar, and I'm including Gewirtz and Brian Gewirtz in this, is that we had the ability to recognize the enormity of the situation, but also have a wink and a nod at how surreal and ridiculous it could be at the same time.
Yes.
And so, and Brian was right there for so many of the key moments, and he did so much, work with Rock, especially in the early days, and would later go on to do a lot more and heads up one of his production companies. And the stuff with Rock and Cena, he was right there for. So it's a
Edge and Christian angle, on and on and on.
Yeah. It's as close as you're going to get to the behind-the-scenes book that Vince McMahon
will never write.
Yeah.
So check it out. Brian's new book, everywhere you enjoy books. I picked mine up on Amazon. Your career path is about to drastically change right after King of the Ring, because in Hartford, that's where Brett and Shawn really get into it.
Yeah.
Have the backstage fight. Of course, Shawn is the tag team champion at the time with Steve Austin. Shawn walks out of the company claiming an unsafe work environment, and now everything has to be rewritten. So I know Dude Love was...
So he walked out as tag team champion. He was ahead of his time.
I've heard of a story similar to that. I don't think they went on TV and made a statement, but that's a story for another time.
Okay.
So, Dude Love was already a plan, right? You had already heard from Vince that we're thinking about doing it, but do you think Shawn walking out sped it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do, because I remember Jim Cornette coming over specifically and saying, "Cactus, your ship has just come in." That's the verbiage he used. So Dude Love was being fast-tracked to stardom.
So when we're talking about, the original timeline, do you know when that would have been? Would you have done it at SummerSlam? Would you have done it? I'm just wondering, when would Dude Love have popped up for the first time, do you think?
Yeah, if Shawn hadn't left, opening up that spot, and man, I'd have to go back. We'd have to go back and see if the tracks are being laid for the Austin Dude Love thing, with the Help Me Steve and all that. I can't remember, but that would be something if that was actually made possible by Shawn's.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
One thing always creates another thing.
I know. I mean, Dude was already in the plans.
Right.
Mr. McMahon, going back to Bruce Pritchard, overhearing the conversation. It's funny. I guess I'll say sometimes, Conrad, that in wrestling and in life, your big break is not necessarily one big break. It's a series of smaller breaks.
Yes.
Like if you imagine a ball peen hammer tapping away at a windshield, and it might put a couple dents here and there, but you never know when that one thing, boom, the whole thing gives. Not that I'm correlating I guess I am correlating a big break with a windshield breaking, but you get the idea that it's a bunch of small breaks, and all of a sudden, boom, here you are. So,
it wasn't necessarily the last one that did it. It was the accumulation.
But it was certainly serendipitous that Bruce overheard my conversation with Shawn, where Shawn said, "Don't take this the wrong way," and I noted, I think at my show that you saw in Huntsville, that as a guy who's been around and written several books, no sentence ends well that begins with the words, "Don't take this the wrong way."
Right.
But it is the northern equivalent of "bless his heart."
Yes.
Right? Okay, which means...
Boy, you hadn't been down here long and you figured it out already.
I lived in... I remember
Pensacola,
since 88, when I lived in Nashville, Dallas, Alabama, and Florida. So Tennessee, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, with a 20-year gap where I went back to Long Island, 2000 through 2020. But it was certainly serendipitous that Bruce heard that, put it in Vince's head that he could make this come true. And again, the sit-down interview yielded so much fruit for me.
It's just crazy to think about, the way Bruce first hears the story is you talking to Shawn about, "No, I thought I'd be more like you," and you wind up trying to replace Shawn in a tag team when he leaves. I mean, the timing, it's just...
And even the finishing move, because originally I went with the Love Handle, which is a great name.
Unbelievable name.
But it's Dude Love using the mandible claw.
Right.
And instead, I said to Vince, like, what if Dude had he had a finishing move that didn't appear to be all that athletic or all that effective even, And I said, what if it was just a kick? I said instead of the big kick to the chin, it would be a kick to the midsection. And then Vince went, "Sweet shin music." And that was it. And that's why he's Vince. knock them
Sweet
all you
shin
want,
music.
but one sweet shin music is going to make up for a lot of mistakes.
And decades later, Orange Cassidy would pick it up where you left off. Who knew? So that night, you replaced Steve Austin in Brian Pillman's first big match since his return. You'd previously worked with Brian back in WCW in both of your stints, and now this is your first match with him after his Humvee accident. Brian Pillman, man, real innovator in the early 90s.
Yeah.
His match with Jushin Liger, people still talk about. But this is a different Brian by this point, is it not?
Yeah, it is. And it's a shame because I had a chance not only to see some of the barn burners that Brian had, especially when he and Austin teamed up as the Hollywood Blondes.
Fantastic.
That was a case where these guys were so good that despite, and I'm not saying this was in every city, but in many cities, no matter what the advertised main event was, the last match to go on was going to be Hollywood Blondes, and a lot of the times against Steamboat and Shane Douglas, who were another really underrated tag team.
Very good.
That was state-of-the-art stuff. And I had some good matches, some really good matches with Brian as well. I think there was one where he, I think he dove off the when I say balcony, it was like a smaller balcony, but he was definitely diving off the stage onto me with a cross-body block outside the ring. But this was a different Brian Pillman. His mobility, when you're originally flying Brian, and all of a sudden you have an accident that precludes any flying whatsoever, he's now got a completely different style. He's got.
I like the persona.
Yeah,
but it's a different wrestler.
It's a different wrestler. I can't. This is kind of telling of the match. I couldn't tell you a darn thing that happened in it.
Yeah.
This episode of Foley is Pod is brought to you in part by AG1 from Athletic Greens, a product many of us have now started using literally every day. I wanted to see what all the hype was about and tried it about 3 weeks ago, and I absolutely love it. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy. It's kind of a mild tropical taste, and I actually look forward to it, but I wanted to know what it is. So what is it? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced ingredients, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things. Again, I just wanted to see what all the hype was about and wondered, frankly, how it tasted. And I actually really enjoy the taste. I know DDP and some others have been taking it every day and really, really enjoy it. AG1, it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free. Look, this contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good. And it costs you less than $3 per day, and you're investing in your health. It's cheaper, trust me, than your cold brew habit, right? Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews. It's recommended by a ton of professional athletes and, of course, a bunch of the folks that you listen to here on our podcast. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Foley. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Foley to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. athleticgreens.com/Foley.
Well, the build is to begin for Canadian Stampede, and you're scheduled to wrestle Triple H as Mankind. Why did you think it was important to keep working as Mankind here and not just fully embrace the Dude Love character? Or was that part of the fun of it, that you could go back and forth?
I think that was part of the fun of it. I can't remember if I tried to discourage Vince from making me full-time Dude Love. I allude to the Summer of Love as being, it was an amazing time period. But we went to, I believe Kuwait, and there weren't many, it was 6,000 people in a huge stadium, right? And so 2 nights in a row, and we didn't give them the show they wanted. The length of the show wasn't what it was supposed to be, and there was a lot of money hanging in the balance. So now we had to give them a longer show, and I'm told to put in 28 minutes with Jim Neidhart as Dude Love. And by about the 8th time I went up to the second rope and did the little Dude Love shimmy, I just thought to myself specifically, the summer of love is over. Like, a lot of the fun had been taken away, and I think by that point we realized that there were different tiers of the Foley characters, and that if Dude Love was every bit as effective as Mankind or Cactus had been, there would be no need for them to come out. So, this is one of those things I think as we progressed, it was like, well, it makes more sense to have these characters alternate.
Situationally.
Yeah, situationally. And the best example of that would be the Montreal November 97 match that Mankind had with Kane. So we necessitated the return of Mankind because Dude was getting his butt kicked by Kane, and he got the big choke slam on the ramp. And that was a great moment for me, because somebody from the crew came over to me at our next TV and went over to the ramp. He said, "Do you know what that is?" I said, "A dent?" He goes, "Yeah, it is." He goes, "Here's the thing, this ramp doesn't dent." Like, how did you do that? How did you do that? And so Kane had gotten some good height. I just saw a photo in the past couple of weeks. I was like, wow, I got some impressive height with his help. And we put a dent in that ramp, and that necessitated the return of Mankind, who then did the favor. So it's Kane beating the more formidable. You could argue that Cactus would have had, maybe he would have stood a better chance with Kane. But clearly, when you've established Mankind as being like a killer heel, that a victory over Mankind means more than a victory over Dude Love.
I would agree with that. So I'm curious, what dented the ramp? Don't say your head. Oh, it was your head?
No, there is a secret.
Okay.
I don't know if I should reveal this.
I know when I'm being bullshitted, Mr. Foley.
And the secret is, drum roll, please. I'm Mick fucking Foley.
Oh, there you go. Come on now.
That's an F-bomb worth relishing.
Well worth it. You're part of the build for this 10-man, the Canadian Stampede, that main event people still talk about.
Wait, our listeners are still laughing. Let's give them a chance.
I got it. Let's let it breathe.
Okay.
We've been talking in these several weeks about, and then I said, hey, I can break that with my head. And I thought, okay, well, after you go through the crate, what happens to your head? Never thought of that.
Nah, never thought of that. Bounce like a basketball off the concrete floor. Go back and watch Jim Ross try to interview me. It was just, I try to stand up, I fall back down, so I'm sitting on my butt. So it's live tape, but essentially it's live. They don't make edits and change things around. It's live to tape, and here's Jim trying to interview a guy who not only can't stand, but then proves he can't talk. And Jim somehow makes me look more like menacing. Cactus Jack is ready. And I was sitting on the ground. But I was ready.
Canadian Stampede, what a main event. It's a 10-man. It's going to be Austin, Goldust, Shamrock, and LOD against the Hart Foundation. But, man, a lot of people felt like you were going to be in that spot, and instead it goes to Goldust, which I thought was interesting. Don't get me wrong. I love that Goldust has been feuding with Brian Pillman, or that's certainly the direction we're going to be going. But it did feel like, as Austin's been looking for a partner and you've been so involved in all of this, that it would have been your spot. Instead, you wound up having a really fun match with Hunter. You're brawling outside. Yeah. And are you disappointed you weren't a part of that main event?
I was not, because I really enjoyed the program with Hunter. I don't know if I'd ever been, if you say I was considered for that role.
Meltzer thought you would be in it.
I don't remember being considered for it, but I would have to think that the matches that I was having as Mankind on the road with Triple H were really turning some heads. It was a really, the Greenwich Blue Blood, before he became Triple H, he's Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Greenwich Blue Blood, and it really played well off Mankind. There's this story. I'll leave here. I'll go to WWE offices tomorrow to be part of the A&E series on great rivalries. So I'll see Hunter, and maybe we'll reminisce about this. But he remembers that I was making my comeback, right? And it was just a really good guy for that organic Mankind turn. I say organic because he never did anything other than the promos with JR that ended up turning him. And so it wasn't like they'd been given a reason, a turn, like most turns have a reason, few, this was just organic, where every week we're on the road and the reactions are getting better. And Hunter remembers he's feeding my comeback. The place is coming unglued, and I drop out of character, and I go, "This is great!" Like, I was just so excited about the reactions we were getting every night. So I think probably Vince thought that we could get some real good mileage, and that he was the best guy to to turn that character. Remember, the as great as that card was in Calgary. The Canadians are big baby faces there.
Yep.
But I don't think they wanted Mankind to be a heel in one country and a baby face in the other.
Right.
But this is my long-winded way of saying, no, I was not bothered by that at all.
So you wind up wrestling Bulldog on Raw, and he absolutely kills you with some chair shots at the Cobo Arena.
Right.
Do you remember that?
I do. I remember coming back and overhearing Davey being like, "I hit him as hard as I effing could," It's like he was putting me over for being willing to do that, you know? And at that point, I was...
would you have asked for that ahead of time? Or he just, okay.
Yeah, I don't think he would have taken a liberty like that. And also, I had this knack for being able to get my hand just... Not talking about the ones at the top of the head, but if memory serves me correct, these were like the baseball swings.
Okay.
So you go back to Halloween Havoc with me and Vader, and it's like, God, he's swinging as hard as he can, and it's just it's on me. The onus is on me to do this quickly. As long as I get this up here, boom, and even if most of the chair was making contact, as long as I had a few fingers up there to deflect it, it was going to be rank highly on the Foley instantaneous risk-reward ratio analysis. Maybe not in the long term, but I was getting an awful lot of bang because nobody else in the business was taking the... And I'm not advocating that the younger guys in the independents start taking the baseball swing, because...
We didn't know what we know now.
Yeah, and there's very little margin for error there. But I do remember, getting leveled like that. But it was, I believe, in building to the Austin... to the Dude Love, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was still Mankind at this point, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I do remember that. And I remember Davey putting me over, which is a big thing because he'd been such a superstar, not just for WWE, but in Japan, around the world,
So when you were talking about the magic of using your hand, the placement I noticed, is the idea to protect your mouth and nose and orbital bone and all that sort of... Yeah. Okay.
So... If there was going to be clanging, it was going to be up here. But sometimes I could deflect it. But boom. So go back if, do we have the ability to put the Vader swing? And there were a bunch of those home run swings where I remember even being in the unenviable position of having to say, like, to let people know, hey, I am blocking these things. Because I think Dave Meltzer said on one of my TNA matches, Foley, without even attempting to block it. And it's like, I did block it. And then there was, I think, a magazine from Germany that clearly showed in a series of photos, Angle swinging at me. And it looks like I have it up there 30 seconds in advance, because it's stop action, but it definitely would get that whoom right here. That worked in a way that, for some reason, blocking the overhand chair shots did not.
Why do you think that is? Because it's one's more discreet than the other?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think once you go like this, it's pretty
Everybody
visible.
sees it.
And now why there would be any hesitation to block a chair shot that people see, because, the biggest stars of our era blocked chair shots.
Yes.
And it didn't affect their popularity at all.
And these days, you pretty much only see it on the back. It's like that's universally accepted. Yeah. Do you think there is a safe way to do chair shots to the head now in 2022, or no? Just your opinion.
Not unless you're willing to block it. Not unless fans are willing to accept that human beings are going to defend themselves when they see metal objects traveling at high speeds.
Did you ever hear a fan chastise you for blocking? I've never even heard of that.
It was considered a badge of honor not to block it back in the Attitude Era. Part of that just dealt with getting a tip of my thumb. I can't say it was broken because you would rarely go and check out an injury like that. But Chris Adams hit me with I put up the hand and it ended up hurting my thumb, and I was like, that's a sign. I'm not meant to block these shots. And then as time went by, I realized, trying to find things that no one else was doing, and if someone else can find footage of someone else taking a chair shot like that before me, I'll stand corrected. But I thought that was something that I brought to the table.
Yeah, for sure. So you're working with Hunter and giving Chyna the mandible claw in the house shows around this time. What was she like in this era?
Joni was great. She was great because she was just, she was so eager to make a great impression. We all liked her.
Yeah.
Everyone liked her. She, success hadn't overwhelmed her like it later would. She was really in a comfortable space, I think, protected. You had a lot of people that really warmed to her, nerdy, dorky sense of humor and her larger-than-life laugh. She was great. She was one of the guys in the best way possible.
You wrestle Pillman again in Des Moines, Iowa on Raw. You're going to lose when you chase Hunter and Chyna to the back. And later that night, you try to help save Austin from Brett when Hart has the figure 4 around the post with the mandible claw. The idea that all of a sudden now you're not only doing stuff with Steve and you've done stuff with The Undertaker, but now Brett too. I mean, this feels like, man, you're brushing up against the absolute top stars in the whole business at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Vince had realized, especially in the aftermath of the JR interview, that I was a bankable guy. I didn't miss matches. I almost always came through with a good effort. Matches were good. He was really happy with the characters. So they were, they were pushing me like as a top guy.
Another thing that happened at Canadian Stampede, which, by the way, Meltzer gave 3 stars to your effort with Hunter Hearst Helmsley. You guys went 13 minutes and 14 seconds. He didn't love the finish because it was a double count out.
Double count out in a cage match, right?
It wasn't a cage.
The cage was the next month, SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But you're brawling all over, and it's a double count out. But what's interesting is they do something kind of fun where you actually show back up when Great Sasuke is wrestling Taka Michinoku, and you're still brawling there too. The idea being there's another match going on, but these guys still aren't done fighting. So it does sort of set the precedent after you've been brawling all over. These guys need to be in a cage. That's how we get there. But that's a nice touch, you guys brawling again during another match. Do you remember who would have brought that to you? Because that's a good idea.
I don't. That is a good idea. I mean, I'm guessing at that time it would have been Russo bringing it to me. I don't know if it would have been Russo.
Well, it's genius. It was really well done.
Hey, he had a lot of good ideas. He really did.
Why do you think that the internet has been so unkind to him?
I don't know. I mean, he's got his own thing. He's got his people. I mean, I think he sunk his teeth into the divisiveness, because it helps create an audience. I'm sure there will be people who listen to Foley's pod. Hopefully they're in the minority. Or like, he doesn't say anything that's super
negative,
controversial, or negative,
but that's not who you are. That's not how you live your life.
Right. That would feel really fake if I did that.
Yes.
No room for fakery in this pro wrestler's life.
Exactly.
But probably Vince Russo would have brought that to me, and it probably would have started off with a bro. Yeah, you can't have an idea pitched to you by Russo that doesn't begin with the word bro.
This episode is brought to you by CarShield, who makes it easy and affordable to protect my car from expensive repairs, and that's just for starters. CarShield is the #1 auto protection company in the U.S. and offers protection plans for around $100 a month. The plans cover more parts than ever before, whether your car has 5,000 miles or 150,000 miles. Let me tell you how simple it is to get your car fixed. When you need a repair, you choose the mechanic, and CarShield's administrators handle the rest. That's it. You don't have to deal with the paperwork or headaches. You're taken care of. Same goes if your car breaks down and you're stuck on the side of the road. Plans through CarShield also include coast-to-coast roadside assistance. CarShield administrators are there for you with rental car options and trip reimbursement at no extra cost too. Get coverage today and you'll lock in your price now and it will never go up. That means as long as you own your car, no matter how old it is, you're protected from the rising cost of parts and repairs for your vehicle. CarShield helps protect my wallet from expensive car repairs, and they'll do the same for you. Go to carshield.com/podcast to start your plan and lock in your pricing forever. That's carshield.com/podcast. A deductible may apply.
The Raw after Canadian Stampede, we've got you taking on Hunter, and you're going to help Steve by hitting Hunter with a chair shot. But Austin still hits you with a stunner afterwards.
Why can't Steve trust anybody?
I don't know, but the pop when he hits that stunner on you is just freaking gigantic.
Why?
You'd been around a lot of different quote-unquote over baby faces before. Sting and WCW and, well, everybody that you'd been around at this point in your career. But it does feel like Steve's reactions here are reaching another level from stuff we had seen before.
This is not an exaggeration to say that when I wrestled Steve, when Mankind was a heel, and even when Steve was a heel turning babyface, but especially after that turn had been made, that everything he did created a reaction that was bigger than anything I ever imagined. And I was big on the visualization, right? Like we're up, I want to reach up here, and all of a sudden with Steve, every night you're getting farther than you ever dreamed. So I was asked one time, who the stiffest or snuggest competitors were, and I said, well, Leon White would be #1, but I think the quote was, fielding Austin's comeback punches was no day at the beach. And somebody said, well, what, did you complain? And I was like, I got almost outraged. I was like, complain? You want me to go out, after having been in the ring, getting a better response for every single thing you do than anything you ever imagined, and you're going to come back and tell the guy who's responsible for that reaction to lighten up on the punches? Nah, because especially if Steve never hit you in the nose or the teeth. It was like Bret Hart called his punches the rubber mallets. That's what him and Steve were neck and neck. Shawn Michaels sent those punches in too, but theirs was a very, a style grounded in snugness. Snug. I was gonna stay stiff, but snug.
Let's talk about something else that was fun in this era. WrestleFest is being put together for Terry Funk and Amarillo, one of his many, 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 many retirement matches.
Yeah.
You wind up being a part of that program, and it's interesting to go back and look at that because all the promotions allowed talent to go work for Terry.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
In the middle of this big war, I think you wrestled, from memory, Sabu.
Sabu, yeah.
And he's, of course, not with WCW or WWF at the time. He's with ECW, but it somehow gets greenlit. And I don't know. I just think that's interesting, and it probably shows you a lot of the respect that Terry wielded in the industry, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And this is the year before Terry's return to WWE. Now
pre-Chainsaw Charlie.
Yeah, pre-Chainsaw Charlie. Now he did come back and dabble. He was on a couple of Shotgun Saturday nights.
Yes.
But yeah, I think Terry was universally respected. So when he asked for a handful of WWE guys, they got delivered. And so that was the only time I wrestled Sabu as Mankind, I believe.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then I remember sitting with Shane Douglas and watching Terry and Brett, and they had a great match. And I don't know if Terry ever did wrestle in Amarillo. That was the Amarillo retirement. So you can go city by city.
Oh, I got
have
you.
a retirement match in every city.
I'll have to let some folks know about that. So here it is. July 14th, San Antonio, Texas. The Dude's finally going to debut as Austin's tag team partner to defeat Owen and Bulldog for the vacant tag belts. From the Observer, quote, the finale saw Austin by himself facing Owen and Bulldog for the tag titles. They were having a good match, and they announced a partner would show up after the commercial break. It turned out to be Mankind with permed hair and no mask as Dude Love. Austin used the stunner on Bulldog, and Love pinned him in 10 minutes of a good match. No word if they'll do a Muto Muda gimmick with Mankind and Dude Love, or if he'll just be Dude Love from this point forward. It was entertaining, although Dude Love to me doesn't seem like a character with a lot of longevity, but since it was such a spoof of a character from another time period, much like Austin Powers, particularly with women hitting the ring and hugging him after the match. That's interesting, because I don't know that I would have immediately made that correlation. But Austin Powers was a pretty popular movie at the time, and it was sort of a throwback, so I get the crossover there.
So much so that I remember at one time, Russo told me they were trying to pitch Michael Myers as like being my second.
Really?
For some type of big match. I remember they showed the foot tapping. I think they showed the white boots either walking or tapping before as they went to commercial break.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember being on a real emotional high after that match. There's a famous restaurant in San Antonio with a crooked floor. Not sure if anyone out there has been there, but I remember eating there after the show and just having one of those great nights where you go back. And I was rooming with Al Snow, and I believe I said Dude Love was like Leif Cassidy with a push. You know, like.
Oh, I love you for that. What a great line. It's a great line. You wrote in your book here, once back from the break, the beating continued until a strange figure suddenly appeared on the huge Titantron video screen. Owls, Steve-O, the figure yelled. Looks like he could use a little help, maybe a tag team partner. At this point, the action in the ring stopped, and all the men stared in disbelief at this guy on the screen. He was dressed in a tie-dyed shirt and bandana, and looked to be the figure of cool, even if his mirrored shades were slipping due to the lack of an ear to support them. The cool guy continued his mesmerizing jive talking by yelling, "Now, Steve-O, I don't blame you for not wanting the tag team."
Hold on, let me just interrupt. Let me do that myself. Ow, Steve-O! Now, I don't blame you for not wanting to tag team with that mangled freak Mankind, but you never said nothing about teaming up with the hippest cat in the land. Ow, Steve-O, it's me, Dude Love, and I'm here to be your tag team partner. How close did I get?
Almost word for word.
Oh, man.
I mean,
beauty.
That was excellent.
That is reason enough to get the exclusive package where you get the video, right? Because for those of you listening on just the audio, we just saw a transformation, almost defied belief, where I metamorphosized into Dude Love.
In real time.
Yeah, then messed up the promo, but nonetheless cut the promo.
It was almost perfect, though. I think the only line you got wrong was, instead of "I'm coming to be your tag team partner," "I'm coming to save the day."
Save the day, yeah.
That was it,
save
though.
The day.
So it's a big deal. And now, unbelievably, you've got your first championship in the company.
Yeah.
And I know that, quote unquote, the championships shouldn't matter and whatever. But man, as a little kid, I'm sure when you first got into wrestling, it's cool to be the champion of something. And this is the WWF you grew up on. And this is arguably going to be the hottest star in the business. And now you and he are tag team champions. I mean, that's got to be a feather in the cap, right?
One more quick dudism for you. So I say, when we combine forces with Texas's own homegrown Chrome Dome, Stone Cold Steve Austin. There you go.
You can keep it on.
Okay, all right, let's do it. I'm
It's
in
a
the
Dude
character.
Love episode.
Ow, daddy.
You say, 2 paid models, Dude Love groupies, couldn't take it anymore and hopped the guardrail so they could get down and boogie with this safe sex symbol. Is Colette here for one of these? Is she?
Oh, no. Okay, so Colette was not in the first. The thing is, if I'm wearing the Dude Love and I'm not in character,
It doesn't work.
it doesn't work. So Colette was a week or two later.
Okay.
So I stand corrected. I do not know who those models were, how much they were paid, but it was fun.
I liked around that same time, around King of the Ring, they started selling those sort of goofy blue inflatable chairs, and that would be like the Dude Love set. So you'd come sit on it on the stage and have the ladies dance, and you had your whole knee move. What was the little knee dance move?
I call it the 23 Skidoo knock knee love dance. It was just something I saw my buddy Danny Zucker do, like when I was 14 or 15, and since I didn't have many
and you were
moves,
like, I'm stealing that.
I'm stealing it, yeah. And I'm sure he stole it from someone. And so I saw a kid doing it on some famous video. It got millions of views. I think it may have been the kid who went up to bat. Did you see this at T-ball? And
I
did the
didn't.
big dance? Oh, it's tremendous. And I think he tried to incorporate the 23 Skidoo knock knee love dance.
Well, it's pretty cool. You would write in here, I was elated backstage. Vince had single-handedly made this dream come true. It didn't matter that the dude couldn't dance a lick or that his trunks were falling down to the point he almost looked like the hippest plumber in the land. The dude was a breath of fresh air. As Vince himself put it a week later after surveying fans' opinions, the dude makes people, quote-unquote, feel good about themselves.
That's right.
Isn't that fascinating?
Does, yeah. He really had an interest in it. And I remember him showing me, he showed me a copy of the WWE magazine the Raw was on before it went to print because he just wanted me to see. He felt like it brought joy to people. He really did, and he really liked it. So whether or not it was a conscious effort to dial back the dude sightings to make each one more valuable and allow the three to kind of share the bill, or I don't know what went into that thought process, but clearly it was the best thing that ever happened to me. As will be evidenced when Mattel comes out with the new Three Faces of Foley, hopefully sometime soon.
Can't wait for that. All in all, though, when you're headed back, you're away from the arena, you're on your way home with your family, you've debuted this Dude Love character, you've got Tag Team Gold. Is this the highlight or one of the highlights at this point up to your WWF career?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I took so much pride in
the Undertaker stuff.
The Undertaker stuff, pre Hell in a Cell Undertaker, and also the stuff I did with Shawn Michaels. Like I really was proud of the stuff I had done, but I realized that this was a great opportunity, as evidenced by the fact that my oldest son trick-or-treated as Dude Love in 1997. So yeah, it worked on a couple of levels. Like I said, I went out of my way to make it evident that Dude was he was less of a threat than the other two guys. Otherwise, there would be no need for them to come back. And it was fun. We were putting the pieces together as we went, and it was really effective.
Do you think anybody else could have done the Dude Love character?
Let me think about that. I'm sure anyone could have put some kind of stamp on it if they said we have this new character, it's going to be Dude Love.
It feels uniquely yours to me.
And I think it was really helped by the darkness of the Mankind character.
Yes.
And I don't think if there had not been an interview with JR, I don't think there would have been a Dude Love at all in WWE.
It's so fascinating to think a few things had to happen. The Dustin Rhodes interview led to the Mankind interview, and then the Sunny Days comment led to the hair fight,
right?
And Shawn walking out, and here you are, and all those dominoes had to fall into place just right for us to get Dude Love. But pretty cool story,
It
man.
happened.
What do you think Steve thought of working with the character? I mean, his character was so, polar opposite.
Yeah.
And I know that's what made the on-screen, I mean, just the photo shoot you guys did of him being annoyed with you was tremendous. I mean, it is like an Odd Couple type deal.
Yeah.
But did he think it brought him down because this was more of a comedy presentation, or did he realize we're adding depth to character and telling a story?
I think it would be the latter. I think, first of all, Steve and I were good friends, and I think he had a lot of respect for me as a wrestler. And I mean, I could be wrong, but I think he really enjoyed it. And I think Steve also realized that it was temporary and that it was fun and that sometimes you need those little, you know, you need those little detours to get back onto that main path.
It feels like this is really the first time we saw that side of his personality, but he had so much fun. He embraced it because a couple years later, he's singing Kumbaya. He's wearing little cowboy hats. I mean, there was lots of fun stuff that happened.
Did he wear the cowboy hat, or was it Kurt? Were they both wearing the cowboy hat?
You know, I know for sure Kurt was wearing little baby cowboy hats, but the point is he was much more comfortable with comedy skits, it feels like, after this. I know that he really stepped out and did funny stuff with ECW where he dressed up like Hulk Hogan, and I know once, you know, that they mocked Ric Flair as the Hollywood Blondes in WCW. Yeah. But this Stone Cold Steve Austin character who's just middle fingers and attacking referees and chugging beer, the idea that he's able to have fun with this. Yeah. This is the first time we saw it, and I think a lot of that's because of the Dude Love situation.
It was nice. In some ways, it gave me a odd couple to bounce off of when I later teamed up with that young, impressionable Dwayne Johnson.
Woo Wings, a virtual restaurant concept from the man himself, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Enjoy the legendary flavors and world championship wings by ordering with your Uber Eats or Postmates app. Woo Wings is now open in Nashville, San Antonio, Jacksonville, Florida, as well as Huntsville and Tuscaloosa in Alabama, with many more locations coming soon. Try the only chicken wings worthy of carrying the name of the 16-time world heavyweight champion. Tell him, Nate.
Wings! Legendary flavors, world championship wings! Woo! Woo Wings! Yeah! Woo woo!
If you could change one thing about your home, what would it be? A new kitchen, a new master bath, maybe put in a pool? What if you could do it with no money out of pocket and cheaper monthly payments? SaveWithConrad.com can help, and you can even skip your next 2 house payments. NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. SaveWithConrad.com. If you had to, as we're sort of wrapping up the episode here of how Dude Love came to be, of all your 3, or at this point there's way more, because there's the commissioner and then there's just regular Mick Foley, but of all the personas, what group of fans identifies, like, what's a typical Dude Love super fan? If they could come and bring an 8x10, and so like a guy like me is going to hand you a Cactus Jack because I was watching way back when. Who's handing you a Dude Love? Because I feel like this is a character that reaches a different audience.
Yeah. I'll tell you who's not handing me a Dude Love is The Undertaker.
Correct. Can't imagine that's his deal.
He teamed up with Dude Love in one of the Middle Eastern countries, and he just felt like everything that we had done together as mankind was not in keeping with what the dude brought to the table. It's a given The Undertaker's not going to be showing up at my. Although I think it's arguable that he probably wouldn't show up to, you know, be in my line as Cactus or Mankind either. But I would say that Dude is by far the least requested of the 3.
Really?
Unless he's combined with the other 2.
Right.
And you can get the 3 Face of Foley signatures. And like I said, on the toys, he's taken on a new life. But at the time, it was the women who wanted to cheer for this guy and play a part in that story. The fans play a bigger part in what we do than any other fans anywhere. And so they were willingly playing their role, almost as if they were hired hands, coming in to throw undergarments at me. And kids liked it. And from what I'm told, fans, particularly in India, like the dude. Wow. I don't know why, but I have heard that on many occasions.
Well, that's fascinating. I would have guessed women and children, but nice to know about India.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
What I'm glad to know is whatever persona you prefer, you can get a video on Cameo, Daddy. Cameo.com / Mick Foley. Yeah, man.
Is it that time already? Let me see what we got here. Okay.
Well, one day we got to go through the whole the bag of gimmicks here.
All right, one day, and I've already done one where I had. Oh, look at! I've got something here.
Uh-oh.
This is the memoir that I told you about.
Oh, wow.
This is
the whole Foley family book.
The Foley, the dad memoir, the Foley Chronicles, The Old Bear Looks Back. Now, just first of all, just feel the quality of that cover, right?
Oh, this is legit, dude.
This
is like something out of a library.
Yeah, so, and if you go through it, you can see that there's all kinds of Sharpie markings on there, highlightings, because that was supposed to be the finished product. I took it on a little vacation with my son, Mickey, and as I was reading the stories, I realized, there were still probably 100 little mistakes in there. And I didn't want to go back to the drawing boards. I'd already paid for 25 copies. But I was like, I can't. I was like, on one hand, I was like, I cannot reread this book another time, because when you do it on your own, there's no editor, there's no copy editor.
This is all you, just by yourself.
Just me and a typist. And we were able to turn that in. If you look at the quality of the color photos,
I couldn't believe.
Yeah.
I mean, I expected a black and white photo, but like randomly, it almost feels like every page could be color. I mean, you put a lot of effort into this.
Put a lot in. I guessed estimate between 500 and 600 hours tied up in there, which is.
And this is the most rare Mick Foley collectible.
It
of
is.
all.
There's only 25. The first edition was pulverized when I said, nah, we got to go back. We have to do another 25. And so, there's 6 family members. The woman who used to run Santa's Village and Becky Lynch, they're the only people who have copies of the book. And maybe for a good cause, we'll put one copy up on auction.
We got to do that.
Maybe we'll,
yeah.
maybe we'll do that. Okay, so let me go back to my cameos here.
And by the way, I want to mention, this is definitely not a plug. We're just providing a service here.
Yes.
Because everybody knows somebody who's a wrestling fan who has a birthday, an anniversary, needs a pick-me-up. And whether you're looking for Mankind, you're looking for Cactus Jack, you're looking for Dude Love, they can get it all at cameo.com/Mick Foley.
That's right. Yeah. And thank you. 2 years running, most requested athlete, and I don't know who's the 2022 isn't over yet, but I'm really proud of that, and I think it's because I put a lot into it.
Well, there's no doubt you put a lot into it. I mean, I think they're the most entertaining when we've seen them every week, and excited to see what we've got in store this week. And
well, it has to be a Dude Love one, right?
It doesn't have to be.
I think it should be.
It is more apropos, I suppose. I think we've even got a special promo code. Is it Foley 20? Is that right?
Oh yeah, Foley 20 for 20% off, capital F and small OLEY 20, and it gives you 20% off, and that's I say exclusive to our listeners, although. If word got out, there's, I guess you want to tell your friends, you get 20% off. All right, so let me do this thing. All right, this is an unusual.
We do want to tell fans, by the way, book it on your computer, not the app.
They take too much. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, are you ready?
We're ready.
How, Joey, your eyes deceiveth you not. This is, in fact, Jack, the hippest cat in the land. Dude Love, and my mission here is to turn that frown upside down. Now, Teresa told me that you are going through a tough time. And the dude would like to address that with his gift of song. It goes something like this. Oh, can you feel it? Can you feel it deep down in your bones? Now, I know, my friend, that times are rough, that the path has been difficult. But Dude Love is here to help assuage that, because you can find fun in anything you do. That's right, Daddy. So please don't look at this journey as a downward spiral, looking at it as a renewal of life. That's right, Dude Love singing about this very special occasion you are embarking on. You know the occasion, Daddy. If not, I'm going to tell you about it. Funeral. You're going to a funeral. Yeah. Happy funeral. Let's put the fun in funeral. This is not actually a real video, Daddy. I dare you to not be singing that in the shower.
Funeral.
You're going to a funeral. Let's put the fun in funeral.
I now have a funeral song. I've never known I needed one, but now you set it up so legitimately. I didn't see it coming.
Thank you. We'll do a real one next week, all right? But
I'm good for you just trolling us every week. That was fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this was a blast. Thank you for tuning in to Foley is Pod. This was a great time. Can't wait for next week. We're going to be talking about Cactus Jack taking on Sabu in ECW while you're the WCW Tag Team Champion.
Nice. Fireworks for sure.
That's quite a sentence. You're the WCW Tag Team Champion in ECW.
I know.
Here we go.
Creating controversy. And
allegedly that creates cash. We'll find out next week right here on Foley is Pod.
Yeah.